Hey guys, what's up? This is Dan, and this is the Sinewave Beacon. Bicycle Crumbs just called this the product of the year, and he says this thing is flawless. He can't find any negatives with it. That is astounding to me because this thing drives me bonkers. Okay, I think it's a good product. I still recommend it, but it has some very big, I don't even know if I call them flaws, but some big issues that people need to be aware of before they go out and buy it. So I was so excited about this light before it came out. Despite the price tag, I pre-ordered it sight unseen because it looked to solve all the problems that I had with my Luxos U chargers. Those ones are made of like a plastic base that breaks. This one is all aluminum. Those ones have issues with water ingress. They have pictures of this on the site being like submerged underwater and still working. I also like that you could plug in a battery pack and use it as sort of like a battery powered light. Let's say you're out in the backcountry, you taco your wheel and you have to push your bike back 5 miles to camp. I could see that being a really useful function. So on paper, everything sounds great about this thing. In reality, it's not so smooth sailing. Okay, so let's talk about some of the problems with the light. First of all, the light output itself. It is capable of being kind of a bright light, but usually the speeds that I ride at are not enough to get there. It's kind of dim and it flickers a lot, and every time you stop and then start again, there's a lot of flickering, almost like seizure inducing. And I'm not saying that to be funny. Like, it is really disruptive, especially if you're on a group ride. I feel bad about having this on my bike. The light output is also not directional, so it doesn't put the light on the ground where you need it. It just blasts it out everywhere into everybody's eyes. I feel terrible if I'm on a bike path and passing people and they're like diving off the path to get out of the way from it. So the advantage there may be that it's a better off-road light, and I think you can mount it upside down or on its side and it'll work equally well. But there's a pretty big trade-off there. Then there's the standby light. The standby light is so dim that I think it's dangerous. When I come to a stop in the street, I want cars to be able to see me just as well as they could when I'm riding. And this standby light falls short. It's very dim. I feel like it's probably about as dim as like if you just got your phone out and just shown the screen. It's very dim, but bizarrely it lasts forever. I mean, hours, literally. I will pull into camp, and that light just keeps going. This kind of like very dim, obnoxious light. I don't understand that. Like, why can't we just have a brighter standby that lasts shorter instead of a very dim standby that lasts forever? And by the way, you're probably asking, well, why don't you just turn the light off when you get to camp? You can't. This seems like a crazy oversight. Like, you need to be able to turn the light off, guys. This is crazy to me. But the number one issue that I have with this light, something that I just totally didn't realize, is that unless you have a battery pack plugged into this thing, it does not work well as a charger and as a light at the same time. It can do one or the other, but not both. Okay, let's talk about the functionality. The light has 3 modes. There's a little switch in the back. The middle position turns the light off, except for the standby light, which just kind of runs indefinitely. The upper position sends all the power to the light first, and the bottom position sends as much power as it can to your phone or the battery charger, and it only sends as much power as it needs to the light. In practice, what I found is that if you plug your phone directly into this, the light is almost useless. It will kind of unpredictably go from a lower, higher setting, but it's so unpredictable and it flickers so dramatically that it's dangerous. And that happens even when you're going fast, which I don't understand. I mean, I've been bombing hills at like 30 plus miles per hour, and this thing does not seem to be capable of charging my phone and giving me a reasonable, predictable light output. Okay, so here's the way that I think this light can be set up to work fairly well. You get a battery pack. This has to be a special kind of battery pack with pass-through power, which means that it can receive power at the same time that it can output power. Now, this makes the battery pack get hot, and even the ones that are pass-through enabled will tell you that you're probably going to damage the battery pack. That sucks, but it is what it is. Okay, so to make this work, you connect USB from the beacon into your battery pack with pass-through, and then you take this little cable that Sinewave include to go from USB back into the light. So this kind of creates this this loop where the light will charge the battery, and then the battery will power the light when it gets too low. All right, and then on the second port on this battery pack, plug in your phone cable, and so you end up with this kind of crazy jumble. And most of these battery packs that have pass-through are kind of clunky. There are smaller ones than this, but this is the only one I had. So you end up with this kind of crazy thing, and you know, this is not very elegant, I'm sorry to say. If you don't want to do this, then just expect to have some other system where you're kind of manually either charging a battery, charging a phone, or using the light and switching between them by plugging and unplugging things. So if you want an all-in-one charging and lighting solution, the Beacon is still one of the very few options out there, and I think it's probably the one I would recommend just because it seems the most robust of them, but it does have some pretty big functional limitations. I'm not happy about that. I think if they come out with a version 2 of this at some point, I bet you they're going to knock it out of the park. I'll be the first in line to get one and let you guys know what I think. But until then, just beware before you drop $350 on this thing that it does have some issues. They can be mitigated. Just make sure it's right for your use case.